can honestly say in my 20-year career of doing this, I have never once before been asked about flying trampolines. So that's a good one.
Hi everyone, I'm Sam Francis, and today we are diving into severe weather warnings that have been issued for the UK over the next few days. So settle in, because there is a lot to cover. The big picture is that the Met Office has issued that series of weather warnings for much of the UK, including yellow warnings for heavy rain and strong winds, and there is even an amber warning for some areas. Well, it's the fourth named storm of the season, Storm Darragh, and it is set to bring challenging conditions across the country. So let's break down what those yellow warnings mean for us. First, heavy rain. That yellow warning for heavy rain is in effect, with some areas expected to see perhaps 20 to 30 millimetres of rainfall in just a few hours. And that could, of course, lead to surface water flooding, possible disruption to travel, longer journey times for bus and train services. And if you're planning to be out and about, make sure you've got your wellies and a good umbrella to hand. Well, alongside that rain, we're also looking at some pretty gusty conditions. The yellow warnings for strong winds indicate westerly, perhaps northwesterly winds increasing during Thursday afternoon and into the evening. There are also inland gusts expected of up to 40 to 50 miles an hour. And coastal areas potentially experiencing gusts of up to 70 miles an hour, especially through the North Channel and the Irish Sea. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, well, it's just a bit of wind, but these conditions can cause some serious disruption. Possible delays to road, rail, air and ferry transport. Also, the possible loss of power just for the short term. And there are coastal routes and communities affected by spray and large waves. So an amber warning means it is really time to pay attention. It's been issued for some areas, which is when we need to sit up and take notice. It indicates a higher likelihood of impacts from the severe weather, the potential for travel delays on roads, rail closures and power cuts, and possibly the risk of life and property. Now, here's something you might not expect to hear in a weather report, but it is crucial. Secure your trampolines. Yes, you heard that right. The Met Office has specifically warned about the danger of unsecured trampolines during high winds. You may have seen trampolines take flight on some social media videos in previous storms, causing some serious damage and possible injury. So if you've got one in your garden, make sure it is properly secured, or better yet, you can dismantle it temporarily. Well, that severe weather is expected to persist into the weekend. A deep low pressure system may cross England and Wales from Friday afternoon, clearing to the east by Saturday night. And it could bring strong winds to much of the area covered by the warnings. Heavy rain, particularly in central, northern and western parts of England and Wales. And even some possible hill snow to the north above around 200 metres. And rainfall amounts could reach up to 25 millimetres quite widely, with some areas, particularly in Wales, potentially seeing even 70 millimetres of rain. Now we've got weather expert Nathan Rao joining us to discuss the developing situation as that storm heads our way. So let's dive straight in. Nathan, good to have you with us on GB News. Let's start with a sense of what to expect from this storm in terms of severity, the intensity of the storm, and how does it compare to now the previous three storms that we've already experienced this season?
Yeah, well, I mean, once again, it's quite a lively storm and it's lasting quite a long time. And this is sort of following the same pattern that we've had since the beginning of the storm season. We've had a couple of storms. Storm Bert will be the one you remember, and then Storm Connell a couple of days after that was named by the Dutch Meteorological Service, which that was less strong. Storm Bert is the one that's looking more like this one. This one is going to come in tomorrow. It's going to turn wetter and windier really from tonight, but the storm itself, which is a deep, rapidly deepening area of low pressure, whenever you're looking at people giving weather forecasts, be it the Met Office or people like myself, we're always talking about, when we talk about storms, low pressure, and it's the deepening of these low pressure systems which gives an indication as to the strength. This one is deepening quite rapidly, and it's coming in tomorrow and through the weekend, and then exiting the UK after the weekend. So really very unsettled through Sunday, but it's Saturday when the Met Office, the UK Met Office, has issued those amber warnings for wind along the western side of the UK, and some of those gusts could touch severe gale force, which is 80 miles per hour, on the exposed and coastal regions, and stronger winds inland. But there are weather warnings for the next 3 days, really all over the UK. Less in severity than Sunday, but for wind and rain, and up to a couple of inches, possibly more rain in parts of the country as that storm, the fourth storm of the season, moves through.
How prepared are we as a country now that this is the fourth in relatively quick succession?
Interesting question. These storms do tend to cause disruption, and it's really the rain that we see causing more of a disruption than wind, and that tends to be because of the flooding issue. And when we've had several storms in succession, which we've had, and there are parts of the country that are already, battling waterlogged ground because we've had 3 storms so far, and some of those brought quite a lot of rainfall. It tends to be the flooding that we could say we don't seem to be as prepared for. You could say the same thing in winter when we get very, very cold snaps, when we get lots and lots of snow or particularly frozen ground. Suddenly everything seems to grind to a halt, and we don't seem very prepared for that. The reason in winter, of course, is we don't get the longevity of cold weather that they do, for example, in Scandinavia. So their whole infrastructure is designed around coping for these very, very long periods of cold weather. In the UK, if we get a cold snap, I guarantee you the whole country will grind to a halt. When it comes to the stormier weather, we tend to be less prepared for flooding. And that is what we see the knock-on effects in the days and the weeks after the storms, is people coping with flooding and the infrastructure not coping so well with the flooding. And there are a number of reasons for that. We don't dredge the rivers so much as we used to do. So when we dredge the river, that's removing the silt bed of the river. So rivers flow more quickly and easily, and they don't tend to overtop. But of course, there are environmental impacts with that and environmental issues with dredging rivers.
Well, let's end on something slightly lighter and brighter. There have been warnings about trampolines, something perhaps people weren't expecting to hear, an unexpected hazard, I suppose, in people's gardens. What else should people be looking out for and be aware of as the winds, the rain head our way?
Do you know what? I can honestly say in my 20-year career of doing this, I've never once before been asked about flying trampolines. So that's a good one. I've never thought of that. Okay, first of all, don't jump up and down on the trampoline during high winds. It's very dangerous and slightly foolhardy. I think the main issue with these very, very strong winds, and actually the reason why the Met Office put warnings out because of the rain as well, is people that are heading out about travelling. The main problems we tend to see, or I tend to find myself reporting about during severe weather, is people who have gone out during very, very severe weather, either to coastal routes walking where there are high overtopping waves. Again, always on the warnings to avoid doing that.
Because we do see those pictures of people walking along the coast with the waves crashing in.
Yeah, and it's very understandable. If you're fascinated with this sort of thing and you like it, it's an amazing experience to stand by the sea with those huge waves overtopping. But the number of times that we've reported on people being caught unawares and lost their balance or swept out by those waves, and the warnings do say stay away from coastal routes during high winds and heavy rain, again because of the waves. And also, if you're driving, just take extra care, make precautions, be road aware, as they say. Strong winds can make driving more difficult and more hazardous, and especially if you've got rain on the motorways and on the roads, that can make driving more hazardous. And if you get cold spells afterwards, which we're going to get, and that freezes over, you get the ice warning. So I know it sounds sort of boring, but it's a case of using common sense and just taking notice of the warnings and doing what people advise you to do, and driving sensibly and being sensible, being weather sensible.
Nathan, thank you very much. Some top tips there, and of course, not least, secure your trampolines. Nathan Rao, weather expert, joining us on GB News. Thank you. So to keep up to date with the weather situation, you can, of course, keep across our social media or visit our website, gbnews.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe for even more exclusive GB News content.